Found out my wife's male best friend was her former lover, so I'm divorcing her and questioning my kid's paternity. 1 month ago, I, 43 male, found out that my wife's, 41F, male best friend, 40 male, was actually her former FWB, and that has enraged me to no end. Not just because they had that kind of past, but because she kept it a secret from me for all these years. To make matters worse, my sister, 40F, who is also my wife's best friend, knew about it and never told me. When we started dating 18 years ago, we agreed to cut all ties with our exes. Now I've learned that she's been lying to me about that for years. After finding out last month, I spoke to a lawyer and told my wife we were getting a divorce. Nothing she says or does now will change that. I also took a DNA test for my daughter, 16F, and twin boys, 12M, and have gone no contact with my sister. Some might say I'm taking things too far, especially with the DNA test, but there's a reason for it. Her FWB and I look strikingly similar. We're both 6 feet tall, have blonde hair, and blue eyes. Until now, I never questioned whether my kids were mine, but after learning about her past with him, I can't help but feel paranoid. On top of that, her FWB never got married because he claimed to have a free soul. It makes me feel like she just settled for me, and if he had ever decided he wanted marriage, she would have left me in an instant. The only silver lining in all of this is that the house we live in is in my name. I inherited it from my grandpa before we got married. For now, I've kicked my wife out of the house and taken her to her parents' place, where I told them exactly why we're getting divorced. I also told my kids because I believe they're old enough to know the truth. Since then, my wife has been calling me constantly, crying and swearing that they were just friends, but I don't believe her. I made it clear that even if the DNA test confirms all 3 kids are mine, I will still go through with the divorce. From what I hear from my brother-in-law, who lives near her parents, she's a complete wreck and barely eats anything. My sister has also tried to reach out to me through her husband, but I told them I don't consider her my sister anymore after wasting 18 years of my life. Honestly, if the DNA test comes back negative, I don't know what I would do. I love my kids more than anything in this world, and finding out that even one of them isn't mine would break me more than anything else. A vast 2006 to me. This all hinges on the fact that you agreed to cut ties with exes. She agreed to it as well, and then she didn't. She kept him around after agreeing to cut ties, and she spent 18 years lying to you about him. That has 2 implications. 1, he's more important to her than is appropriate, more important than her agreements with you, apparently, and 2, she's willing to deceive you, pervasively. Her word is now worth nothing in your ears. Given how much she's lied to you about him already, why should you believe her when she insists they're just friends? Saver space 94 exactly this, the people saying dude, seek therapy and try to work through this, that's a lot to throw away, and that's a long time of being lied to with others supporting her lie. They are just not getting it. She is a fully grown adult woman and has a strange bond with a man who is not her husband to a degree of lying for him, in tandem with other family members. Others need to stop putting cushions under things. This is a rather disgusting thing. Update 1. First, I want to make some things clear. I didn't kick her out of the house like some crazy person. I asked for space, and she accepted. I then drove her to her parents' place, which is a little over an hour away by car. The idea of cutting ties with exes was hers. When she said exes, she meant people like my childhood friend, who I only dated for a month in high school, but somehow not her FWB, with whom she had a sexual relationship for who knows how long. Yes, cutting him off would have probably cost her half of her friend group, but the same thing happened to me when I cut ties with my childhood friend because of her boundaries. If she didn't want to lose friends over this, she shouldn't have been the one to suggest cutting ties with exes then. I explained the reason for our separation to our children. She lied about something important, and I was upset. I told them that I wanted us to take some time apart for now. The house isn't about money. It's about the sentimental value. It holds memories of my grandparents and childhood, and it's where I've made so many memories with my kids. That's why I consulted with a lawyer about the house first. I would still need to pay at least $100,000 to my wife for the house, but I'm okay with that. I asked her about her relationship with that guy 2 or 3 times early in our relationship. She always assured me that they were just friends, but I felt insecure and asked my sister, who knew them for 4 or 5 years. She told me their relationship was like that of a brother and sister, so I chose to believe her big mistake. The FWB was never someone who would settle down and have a family. For as long as I've known him, he's always been traveling, doing dangerous things, and chasing thrills. That's why I feel like I was the safe choice for her. The fact that she kept their relationship a secret from me for 18 years only makes me think I am right. The results of the DNA test don't matter, they will always be my children. Even if the results come back positive, I still want to proceed with the divorce. However, I should at least try 3 to 6 months of couples therapy, if not for myself, then at least for the kids. About the test results, I'll wait for my best friend before looking at the results so I have someone for support. I'll post a small update in the comments once I look at them. Update 2. So, about an hour and a half ago, my best friend, who I've known for as long as I can remember, drove nearly 3 hours to be with me and help me through this. After he arrived, we had a beer or 2, and I told him everything. He just listened, letting me get it all out, and reassured me that he'd be there for me no matter what. After about 10 minutes, I finally gathered the courage to look at the test results and completely broke down. I collapsed into a crying mess. When I finally calmed down, we started talking about what I should do next. Should I try to save my marriage for the sake of the kids? Would that even be the right thing to do? That's when my friend shared something from his own past. When he was young, one of his parents cheated, but they still stayed together for the kids. And he told me, without hesitation, that it was the worst thing they could have done. He spent years wishing they had just divorced instead of forcing everyone to live in that kind of broken relationship. His words, along with some of the private messages I've received, really hit me. So, I've decided not to try to save the marriage. I will go forward with the divorce. But I also want to make sure that, even after it's over, we can still work together for the best interests of our children. That's why I'll be going to both individual and couples therapy so that we can learn how to co-parent in the healthiest way possible. I also am looking for a good therapist for my 3 children so that they can begin to heal as soon as possible. Endgame for me update 3. I wanted to post one final update on what's been happening after I talked with my wife when she got back from her parents. As you can see from the title, I've made up my mind to give her a second chance after going through her current phone and her old phone from about 12 years ago. We had a long conversation where I asked her why she made me cut off my exes while she still kept her former FWB. Turns out, her first long-term boyfriend of 3 years had cheated on her with a mutual friend, which made her deeply insecure about her future partners having female friends, especially exes. From the time we started dating until I made our relationship official after about 5 or 6 months, she was struggling with those insecurities. When I asked her to make our relationship official and get engaged, she had a conversation with my sister, who suggested that we both cut off our exes. My wife agreed, but my sister convinced her that the FWB didn't count as an ex because they had only slept together twice during a trip to Europe with some friends. Later, my wife regretted lying to me and wanted to tell me about her past with him, but my sister stopped her. She told my wife that bringing it up would only cause unnecessary stress and could even put her pregnancy at risk. Because of that, my wife decided not to tell me but tried to distance herself from him instead. Eventually, she planned to cut him off completely without me ever knowing. However, my sister had other plans. She had a crush on the FWB's close friend and really liked that friend group. She knew that if my wife distanced herself, it would inevitably break up the group, so she pressured my wife into going to meetups where the FWB would be, sometimes lying to her about who would be there. Another possible reason my sister did this was that she herself wanted to keep seeing her own FWB while being in a relationship and didn't want to feel guilty about it. That's the only explanation I can think of. I also asked my wife if she would take a polygraph test to prove she never cheated on me, and she agreed immediately without a second of hesitation. So we're going to try to save this marriage, starting with marriage counseling and other steps to rebuild trust. But first, she has to completely cut off that friend group and block my sister from everything. And to address some of the private messages I've been getting, no, I'm not an abuser, nor have I financially abused my wife. She has been working since our twin boys turned 2, and my mother moved in with us to help care for them while we both worked. And no, I'm not just looking for an excuse to leave this marriage because of some midlife crisis. I love my wife and my children, and not being away from them for weeks or months would be heartbreaking. I don't know how they could have faked messages on a phone that was in our house, hadn't been turned on in maybe 12 years, while she was at her parents' place. It's so odd. I wipe all of my old phones. What would be the point of not doing so? I think it's too convenient. Here's decade-old contemporaneous evidence to prove my point. Update 4. Well, buckle up. I thought this would be my final update, just recapping trust exercises in therapy and sharing some hope about the future. Instead, the last week has been the most surreal, ass-backwards, stressful, and frankly, bizarre stretch of my life so far. If you're obsessed with drama, secrets, and awkward family dinners, congratulations, this is your Super Bowl. Let's rewind to last Friday. My wife and I, now warily committed to total honesty, sat down with our new marriage counselor. There, for the first time, she gave me her full, unfiltered account, no more caveats, half-truths, or omissions, as she promised. I wanted to believe we'd be working through pain together. Instead, both of us nearly got whiplash. It started when the therapist asked about the timeline. Were there ever moments since your agreement when you felt tempted, or pressured, to keep secrets? My wife hesitated and then, to my shock, started crying. She admitted there were 2 occasions over the years, long after our agreement and after our kids were born, when she'd almost told me about the FWB, once even drafting an email confession. Both times, she'd been talked out of it. The first time, by my sister, again. The second, just a year ago, by her mother, who feared breaking up the family and claimed, "Men don't really want to know these things, not truly." That quote is now seared into my brain, but here's where things jump the rails. My therapist asked, and during these conversations about your friend, was it only these 3 confidants, yourself, sister, and your mom? My wife nodded yes, until the therapist clarified, did you ever discuss it with the FWB? And that's when a whole new can of worms spilled out. My wife confessed that FWB had, in fact, known for over a decade that I was in the dark, and he actively lobbied her to tell me. He'd been making it awkward on purpose at group events, trying, unsuccessfully, to force the truth into the open because he didn't want to be the dude who was hiding things anymore. My wife always shut him down, convinced I'd leave if I found out, stuck in a weird stalemate where the guilty party wants to reveal themselves but the person protecting her marriage keeps the lid on tighter. Therapist asked, why not just tell him directly? Meaning, me. My wife, in a moment of raw honesty, said, because I thought if you found out everything, you'd see us all as liars, and you'd see me as someone who only stayed because the FWB wasn't available. She looked at me, terrified. Maybe if she'd told me earlier, I'd have left. Classic lose-lose. It was cathartic, but also, the session ended with us both sort of shell-shocked, because I realized my biggest enemies, the people who helped her hide things from me, had been playing jury and executioner on what truths I could handle. In that room, for the first time, my wife apologized for not giving me the chance to react like an adult, for deciding on my behalf that her method of protecting the marriage was better than the truth. That was just the therapy session. You know how when you think things are calming down, life throws a Molotov cocktail through your window? That cocktail came Sunday, with a text from my brother-in-law, sister's husband, emergency family meeting. Your mom's house. 7 p.m. I went, expecting more icy silence, or some kind of intervention to reunite me with my sister. Instead, my mom, my wife's parents, my wife, my sister, and, surprise, even the fabled FWB, were waiting in the living room. Absolute ambush. Here's what happened. After word got out that my sister had pressured my wife not to tell me, and that she'd been keeping secrets about her own FWB to her husband, my brother-in-law confronted her, then blew the whole thing sky high with both families. Turns out, my sister's reasoning for her actions wasn't just protecting a friend group, but covering up her own years-old FWB situationship from her husband. Her crusade to keep exes around was not exactly selfless. With everyone in the same room, it all spilled out. My wife's parents admitted they'd always felt uneasy about the friend group's dynamic but did nothing for fear of ruining the family gatherings. My sister and brother-in-law had a full-on public argument, with the poor FWB looking like he wanted the earth to swallow him. The real kicker? The FWB manned up and apologized to me. He looked me straight in the eye and said, I should have told you years ago, even if it cost me my friends, I'd do it differently now. He also wanted me to know, for the record, that it never crossed a physical line with my wife after we got together. He also agreed to block my wife and leave the group permanently. No drama. After the meeting, the families agreed, no more lies, no more covering for each other. I got full closure. And when the meeting was over, my mom hugged me and whispered, you deserve better friends. Start over. I'd like to say everything magically got better. Not quite, but progress is being made. My wife and I are still in counseling. Some days I look at her and see my partner of 2 decades, other days, I just see the pain. For now, though, she's allowed back in the house, kids request, living in the guest room while we try to chart out what we both really want. I put my feelings about the marriage on the table. We agreed on a 6-month window, full transparency, joint and solo therapy, and a commitment to family honesty. At the end, if we don't feel like we're genuinely happy, or forgiving, not just staying out of inertia, then we separate for good. I set boundaries. My sister is no longer welcome in our house for now, and neither are any members of the old friend group. The good news? The kids are doing better. They're back to cracking jokes at the dinner table and even made me pancakes for Father's Day, just the 3 of them, no prompting from anyone. Their therapists check in weekly. My brother-in-law is considering divorce from my sister, but that's a tragedy for another story. Remember the inconveniently not wiped old phone? I asked tech-savvy friends forensically to check it, given how much skepticism you guys had. Here's the wild bit. When they loaded it up, there were dozens of undelivered drafts and archived messages. Messages my wife did try to send to me but never found the guts to hit send on. Most were emotional, panicked, and desperate to tell the truth, dating from years ago, each one ultimately erased before she could go through with it. Her 2 actual texts to my sister, from the day after we got engaged and again on our wedding anniversary, matched up with the rest of the timeline. No hidden messages, no erased apps, no weird editing. Just a digital graveyard of ghosted confessions. I read every one. It took hours, felt like splitting open a time capsule of latent guilt. It didn't let her off the hook, but it did feel humanizing. So here's where I stand. For the first time, my entire marriage is exposed, warts and all, family secrets, friend group betrayals, even my own paranoia, all out in the open. The hurt is real. The anger is too. But there's also a kind of sick relief. I am no longer crazy, no longer forced to play detective, no longer isolated by secrets that weren't mine. I can't say whether my wife and I will ultimately make it, but for now, we're actually working, not just pretending, to move forward. If it works, it works. And if not, I'll start over, with my kids, with new boundaries, and, apparently, a much smaller group of people I trust. Update 5. Rebuilding from the nuclear wasteland. That's what I called last night in my journal, at 3 a.m., while staring out at the driveway where, no joke, my wife, for the first time in years, was smoking a cigarette, and talking to her mother in the front yard. It's almost poetic, in the most dysfunctional sense. In the ruins of our old, perfect family image, some very raw, very real things have started to grow. Spoiler alert, if you're waiting for some final dramatic betrayal, or a trust fall into happily ever after, you're about to be disappointed. But the drama has mutated, less explosive, more radioactive background hum. Let's start with the fact that my brother-in-law actually did move out. For real, he came over with a duffel bag on Monday, needing a place to crash. He and my oldest, my daughter, now 16 and alarmingly wise, played switch on the couch while, in the kitchen, he spilled his guts. Yes, he's devastated. Yes, he feels betrayed, both by my sister and, as it turns out, by me, for not seeing any of this in myself or my family sooner. But his angry relief was palpable. At least I know now, he said. No more tiptoeing. He's calling a divorce lawyer, meeting with a therapist, and asking if I want to plan a summer hiking trip with the kids, just the two of us and the cousins, clear our heads. My daughter wants to go, badly. Meanwhile, my sister herself? She called, once. Her voicemail was long, rambling, almost defiant. You're always the golden child, maybe now you'll see what it's like when everyone turns on you. I haven't called her back. For the first time in my life, I don't feel the urge to fix it, or even shout back. I just feel, empty? Tired? But also a little lighter. The kids, for what it's worth, have not asked for her. Their aunt is simply absent, a ghost they mention in the past tense. My wife and I are deep in therapy, join an individual, which is less television drama, more uncomfortable paperwork of the soul. Our counselor assigned us separate journals to document every hurt and every hope. She now leaves hers open on the kitchen counter, something she never would have done 7 months ago. Sometimes, when I walk by, I see lines like, I am terrified of the day he says he can never trust me again, or I missed watching him smile at the oven while cooking with the boys. One Sunday, I wrote a note in her margin, I still like how you chop garlic. For almost 2 weeks, we both avoided mentioning it. The hardest new development, our twins, 12 and historically oblivious to drama, have become much more vigilant. They now wait up for me to come home from work, and a few nights ago, one of them actually asked, is mommy sleeping here tonight or at grandma's? We told them, right now, we're just figuring things out. We both still love you. It's a script, but it works. Most days. But here is the truly strange, unexpectedly redemptive heart of this update. The FWB, whose name I'll call Leo, for anonymity, sent me a long, surprising email. He'd left the group chat, broken all contact with my wife, and, it turns out, moved to the West Coast to get away from the mess. His email? It wasn't an apology, again, or a Hail Mary for forgiveness. It was a chronology, dates, places, an exhaustive list of every interaction he could recall with my wife after our marriage began. I don't want to be the reason your trust never grows back, he wrote, but I also don't want my part to be rewritten. In your head, festering, making you doubt things you shouldn't. Use this if you ever need to check reality against your fears. There were even photos, goofy group shots at events. No DM screenshots, no drama, just a guy trying to clear his karmic ledger. Maybe the wildest moment of all, after I read the email, it occurred to me, I actually did believe him. Not just wanted to believe. It was enough. I closed the laptop and, for the first time since this all started, I did not feel a compulsion to recheck, verify, interrogate. My wife's mom and my mom have, improbably, become friends, sort of trauma bonded by all the family explosions, and now texting about which therapist is the best for middle-aged anxiety. They are doing art classes. My mother huffed, well, neither of us can ever talk about our daughters at bridge, so we might as well learn watercolors. I haven't seen them both laugh that hard in years. Now for the rough stuff. Trust is not healed. It's a field of landmines. Sex is still off the table, my idea, for once. Physical closeness is replaced with awkward, stilted attempts at humor. There are new rules. She always lets me know where she is, I do the same. If one of us feels a trigger, over a friend, a memory, or just a weird look across the living room, we agree to say it, even if it kills the mood. It's like walking with a limp, every step is cautious, every moment tested. But we do talk about a possible future now, tentative, yes, but for the first time as partners either rebuilding a real marriage or respectfully separating. Our daughter was the one who intervened there, knocking on our bedroom door with her own proposal. Can we just have dinner once a week, all 5 of us, no matter what? Even if you split up, I want that. We agreed, and so Wednesdays are now pizza night, with everyone, yes, even the twins, sharing one truth from their week. Some are silly, I hate Spanish class. Some are heartbreakers, I cried at lunch because we talked about parents splitting up. We all cry sometimes. And finally, me, where do I stand? Nowhere solid, yet everywhere firmer than before. I'm painfully aware that my life will never be the same, but, bizarre as it sounds, I am weirdly grateful for the explosion. I trust myself more. I don't let secrets grow in the dark. And I am absolutely done letting other people decide how much pain I can handle. If you're reading hoping for revenge, or a return to wedded bliss, or one final secret to topple it all, sorry. Real life is messier, slower, less cathartic. I still do not know if we'll stay married. Right now, I'm just trying to be a better dad, some days, maybe even a better husband. I know how to cook with my kids. I know how to laugh a little again. And I know, truly, now, that no one can hide the truth forever. Whether we survive as a couple or not, I won't be part of another family built on secrets. Update 6, The Great Defragmentation, or, How My Life Became Less About Betrayal, More About Bad Board Games and Legal Threats. Strap in. If you thought the Ambush Family Summit or molecular level journaling was as weird as it got, nope. I guess when you nuke a marriage, the aftershocks turn up in places you'd never expect: a crowded Quick Mart, a therapy waiting room, and, oddly, a sandwich shop parking lot at 10 p.m. This update is going to be long. Like, grab some chips and pretend we're back in AOL chat rooms long. Because this last month, every secret that ever mattered seems to have stumbled out, blinking, into chaos light. Let's start with the legal side, since apparently my existence is now half Discovery, half court TV episode. My brother-in-law officially filed for divorce. My ex-sister, I only call her that in my head, still swings between denial and rage. She lawyered up, too, and actually threatened, in writing, to subpoena me as a character witness against her own husband. Yeah, you read that right. Don't worry, I told her lawyer, I'll be honest on the stand. You sure you want my testimony? Suddenly, never heard from them again. Apparently her FWB, who she swore off even after the confrontation, decided to text her a Mother's Day meme. Her husband found it. New ancient wound opened. I haven't been involved since, and I have zero intention of jumping back onto that dumpster fire. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law stayed with us for 2 weeks. The 4 kids, my 3 plus their cousin, rediscovered what actual family is, without the weird undercurrent of secrets. Pizza night is now pizza board game night. Thanks to a strong campaign from the twins, we suffered through an epic 4-hour monopoly of tears, alliances, and my oldest, launching Boardwalk across the table. She claimed it was the most fun we've had all year. Go figure, therapy is a full-time job. With the 6-month window ticking, there's a strange, almost bureaucratic sense of purpose. Every Sunday we meet, compare hurt and hope columns, and set micro goals. Some examples: plan a weekend hike, me, for the twins, try making a meal together, no takeout, her, for us, figure out what a happy family honestly means now, not last year, things you'd think were automatic. Turns out, trust is a muscle you have to rebuild with reps, a dozen awkward moments at a time. Then came the oddest, most cinematic bit yet: her old friend group, minus Leo, the ex-FWB who's vanished into Pacific Northwest fog, reached out, requesting a closure dinner. Apparently, the drama that detonated here did the same for half their lives. 2 of them split with long-term partners, and everyone hasn't spoken much since. I let my wife go solo, on one big condition: total transparency, and a full debrief afterward. I half expected her to return shattered. Instead, she came back shaken, raw, but lighter. They're all so angry at secrets, she said. You aren't the only one cleaning up a bomb site. She actually laughed a little. We wrote down what she wanted in an ideal future: a new friend circle built with honesty, with no one pretending not to know things. First step, she finally, truly cut ties with every person, except family, who had kept the lie alive. Her phone book is emptier than mine now. There's a subplot I haven't shared yet. My youngest, one of the twins, started sleepwalking again. We hadn't seen this in years. Twice now, I've woken up to find him standing in the hallway, holding a book or a stuffed animal, murmuring about fixing it. His therapist thinks it's stress, just the spillover from months of instability. But here's the kicker: he wrote me, unprompted, a note that said, "I hope we stay a family, even if we have to be 2 families. But please stop fighting." We read it together at pizza night, all 5 of us in absolute silence. I think it was the first time my wife and I both cried in front of the kids. Not the last. Here's another piece of realness. My wife admitted, in joint therapy 2 weeks ago, that even if we don't make it, if we end up respectfully co-parenting, she's afraid of rebuilding her entire support network from scratch. I was so sure our friend group was forever, she said. Now I don't know who'd show up if I needed help at 2 a.m. Except you. It wasn't romantic. Just brutally honest. I admitted the same: I don't know who'd help me, except maybe my brother-in-law. Maybe that's how we start, she said. A pair of grown-up refugees, building something new. As for me, the post-traumatic paranoia still flares up sometimes. New boundaries are both ritual and genuine. We share phone passcodes, agreed, not demanded, calendar locations for kid events, and, controversially, send each other "I'm still coming home" texts if we're running late. It's a weird blend of high trust building and low-level surveillance, but it's our compromise. Our therapist calls it interim transparency. I call it insurance against waking up in another blind spot. The single most unexpected development: my mom and her mom dragged us to family painting night at the local rec center. Picture me, my wife, the kids, 2 grandmothers in matching aprons, and enough paint to cover 3 minivans. It was a disaster of color and spilled lemonade, but halfway through, my daughter quietly painted a sign: "No more secrets." She hung it over the kitchen table. It's still there. At the end of the day, I still don't know what marriage means to me, not now. I have no gospel ending, no golden rule for nuke relationships. But my wife and I are real with each other for the first time since our 20s, sometimes agonizingly so. We fail, we apologize, we circle back like determined idiots. Some nights, I see her wistfully watching me across the living room, like she's cataloging what might still be salvageable. Some nights she's back in the guest room. Other nights, it's just old comfort on the porch while the kids watch a movie, neither of us pretending, neither of us lying by omission. And every Wednesday, 5 broken but fierce people have pizza, play board games, and hang a handmade sign about truth over our table. I have no idea where we'll be at the end of this 6-month window, but this is our new normal.